G'day humans, Chris Stead here with a first look at the MotoGP 24 bike simulation game from Milestone. Now this is the official announcement trailer you can see, which I was flicked by the publisher before it was released publicly with a bunch of information, so I thought why not share it with a rundown of the big new additions to the game. Even if the trailer itself only shows a glimmer of actual gameplay, there's plenty of details to pass on. So the game is coming to PC, Switch, Xbox consoles and PlayStation consoles on May 2, so not too long between announcement, so on March 14 here in Australia anyway, and the launch of the game. So firstly, a few words about Milestone. The company is celebrating its 30th birthday in 2024, and it's been hyper-focused on the racing genre ever since the early days really. In fact, it first dabbled in the MotoGP series back in 2007. Milestone, which was purchased by Koch Media in 2019, although that name was so hilarious I had to change it to Plaion. After it really accelerated its output in the years prior, and then Koch came along and bought it. Sorry, Plaion. Now, Milestone, you might have seen, well, you should have seen it before if you've been anywhere near the racing genre, but they did all the Superbike World Championship games. They did the official motocross video games. The Ride series is from those guys. The Monster Energy Supercross series. They've also been in a lot of the rally games like WRC. They did most of the WRC series games. And most recently did Hot Wheels Unleashed, which was a really good kind of kart racer alternative. So the point I'm trying to make here is that the studio has been refining its physics, its trackside detail, its weather effects, its modes and so forth for decades, getting better and better for the most part with each new release. And I remember those early Milestone games, and they there was a lot of effort, but it didn't have the gloss of like the EA's titles, like the FIFA's and even Codemasters and that type of thing. It just wasn't quite there. But in recent years, definitely from say when Ride first came out, and up to Ride 5 now I think. So since around then, it's been the Milestone's been really doing some pretty excellent racing sims. Now, with these annual sports releases, generally they iterate rather than evolve. So MotoGP 24 kind of builds on editions of last year, and kind of the big one last year was dynamic weather. With subtle improvements that bring the game closer to the real life experience. So there are 7 big features or additions that Milestone is heralding alongside the launch trailer, the launch announcement and the release date announcement. Now the first one's the Riders Market. So this is a kind of a new feature, I guess, whereby the top racers can switch between teams from season to season, kind of depending on results. So that's you or the AI. And it's basically trying to introduce that kind of, we've seen a couple of the big riders recently just move, and you've seen a lot in F1 as well, kind of shifting teams has become a big part of the drama of the sport. So now it's going to be in the game as well. And the way that these kind of rider market can be, it can be swayed by a fictional social network that the game has set up, and the way that kind of, I guess, the fans respond to your actions. But it's unclear if you're posting a social post somehow through the game, or if it's like a fake media, like kind of what Codemasters did in its games. So hopefully it's the former, where you're doing the posts or at least choosing them in some way, so it's kind of a bit branching and a bit dynamic and it doesn't feel rigged. So we'll see. Now they're also introducing stewards as well. Now, so these are there to enforce the rules. So if you drive like a loose cannon, and the chances are you'll cop some warnings or some penalties like cancelled qualifying times or time additions or long laps. You can also be ordered to let opponents pass if you overtook illegally on the track. So all those kind of elements will be coming into the game this year with the stewards. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not they're overzealous, because there's been racing games I've played in the past, and particularly the F1 games from Cody's, where they just you're like, well, what the hell was that for? And it's really frustrating when you're trying to nail a quick lap. So hopefully they get that right. Now, and this is the third kind of big addition that they're touting is dynamic difficulty. And this is really interesting. So basically it'll adjust the AI performance to meet the needs of the player. So if you're kind of like just way out the back and you're not doing so well, it's going to slow the pack down so you're kind of in the group. Now, this is, again, Codemasters been doing it for a while. But considering that the MotoGP series has such a, it's such a sim, it's not an easy game to get into. It can be, that's good for that reason, because it's deep and it's realistic, and it's not just about just squeezing down acceleration the entire way and not having to worry about subtly accelerating and braking and keeping your bike under control and keeping your traction where it needs to be. It is right in on that. So the fact the dynamic difficulty will hopefully open the door to newcomers to kind of come in and be able to do, have a better experience with the game. It doesn't sound like it's going to like impact any of the bike control assists. So it doesn't sound like it's going to go, hey, you suck, so I'm going to turn on traction control, or I'm going to steer these corners for you or brake for you or anything like that. It doesn't sound like it's going to go that far with the dynamic difficulty anyway. So it'd be interesting to see if they get that kind of seesaw right. But yeah, it should open the game up to a bit more people, which is good. Now they've also done some work on the AI, so how your opponents are going to, I guess, drive on the track. And I'll just read here what Milestone told me, which was, the AI has been refined to replicate the real rider's approach to racing. Former world champions will leverage their experience, waiting before striking with the winning overtake. Rookies will be able to prove themselves from the off. So that's interesting. Look, this is a pitch that many racing games have made to me in the past, like going back decades, and it's rarely hit the mark. It's kind of like it's painting this illusion that it's happening, but I've never ever really felt like it's really kind of happening. The probably closest has been when you I think it was maybe the Grid series, and was it Forza maybe too, as well, where basically if you ran someone off the road, then they're more likely to try and run you off the road. I think it was actually, was it Assetto Corsa? One of those sims did a really good job with it. But yeah, so I love that they're pitching this. I really hope they come through with it, but I'm going to, park this in a wait and see space. Number 5, as expected, the physics have seen some love. There's a new electronic tuning system, which is all about improving the feel and control of power as you go in and out of corners. Very, very critical in a bike game in particular, but any racing game. Milestone also promises we'll feel a difference between the various tyre compounds with respect to the track you're on. So different tracks, the same compound will act differently on different tracks. That should also be played into by the dynamic weather as well. But they haven't mentioned it specifically, but you can only assume it will. And hopefully this will carry through to the way that tyres deteriorate. So I'm very interested to see how that goes. 6th feature. So online is a new mode to enjoy called LiveGP Championships. So these are literally live events that will happen at scheduled times, allowing the hardcore to get in there and kind of compete across seasons. So they're live events. So you can't just join at some random time or get match made. You've got to be there on the day and at the hour. So that sounds cool, but for Aussies at least, it could mean some super late nights or early mornings anyway. We've also been promised cross-play support across the different platforms and 2-player local split screen, which is awesome, but that will not be in the Switch version. So only in the PlayStation, Xbox and PC versions are you going to get the local split screen, which is a shame because the Switch audience is the most likely to use the split screen, but anyway, that's what happens with these visually rich games. And finally, point number 7, or feature number 7, there's going to be separate editors for helmets, stickers, racing numbers, and butt patches. So that's 4 different editors, and you can share your sexy butt patch customization online and across formats. So there you have it. So look, MotoGP 23 was a good game. It was a full-on sim experience. It had it was a clear passion for the sport there, and it really delivered it in the nuance and skill. Definitely wasn't an arcade game, and they're probably not for flippant fans, although it'd be interesting to see how the new dynamic difficulty kind of closes that gap a little bit. But yeah, MotoGP 23 was definitely a step up for the series. So MotoGP 24, it's going to have to bring the goods. Anyway, the checkered flag, as I said, waits for the developer Milestone on May 2 across PlayStation, PC, Xbox, and the Switch. I'm Chris Stead. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I'll check you later. Yee-hoo!